All right, let's talk about a huge challenge facing manufacturers today, that massive gap between what's happening on the factory floor and what's showing up on the digital storefront. Today, we're going to break down how a smart ERP, that's Epicor Kinetic, joins forces with a B2B commerce platform, OroCommerce, to create what we call a connected factory. It's something that completely changes the game for businesses and their dealer networks.
So, let's start with a question that probably hits a nerve for a lot of you. This single problem, selling phantom inventory, it's the classic symptom of a disconnected business, right? It's exactly what happens when your sales team has no clue, in real time, what the factory can actually produce. It just leads to broken promises, really frustrated customers, and just total operational chaos.
So here's how we're going to walk through this. First, we'll unpack what we're calling the manufacturing paradox. Then, we'll get into the purpose-built solution and see how these systems connect the shop to the storefront. After that, we'll dive into the numbers, the real, quantifiable results, and wrap up with what all this means for building a factory that's truly ready for the future.
Okay, first up, the core challenge. You see, a lot of mid-market manufacturers are caught in this really tough spot. They're big enough to have incredibly complex needs, custom parts, complex supply chains, but they often don't have the giant IT departments that their bigger competitors do.
And this leads to something called spreadsheet-based visibility. Sound familiar? It's that world where all your critical info lives in separate little islands. The shop floor has no idea what sales just promised a key customer, and accounting is just trying to glue it all together weeks later. This isn't just inefficient, it's a genuine roadblock to growth.
So how do you solve a paradox like that? Well, not with a generic one-size-fits-all tool. You need a purpose-built solution. And that brings us to the two heroes of our story, Epicor Kinetic and OroCommerce.
Probably the best way to understand these platforms is with an analogy. Just think of Epicor Kinetic as the factory brain. It's the ERP system that absolutely masters that complex internal world of production, scheduling, and all your inventory. Then on the other side, you have OroCommerce. That's your digital showroom, and it's built from the ground up to manage the external world, your B2B sales, and crucially, those dealer relationships.
And this really shows you why specialized tools matter so much. A generic ERP just can't handle the core needs of a modern factory. Kinetic, on the other hand, was born for this. It natively handles super complex bills of materials, the detailed recipe for every single product, and has real-time production tracking built right in. With a generic system, you'd be stuck trying to bolt on expensive, clunky add-ons to do the same thing.
Now here is a crucial insight on the commerce side of things. For a manufacturer, the website's biggest value isn't always the shopping cart. It's the account dashboard. When you give your dealer network a self-service portal where they can check their specific pricing, track shipments, and pay invoices 24/7, you free up your sales team to actually sell and grow the business, not just answer administrative questions.
So we have the factory brain and the digital showroom. The next big question is, how do you connect them? How do you create one single intelligent system that truly bridges the shop floor to the storefront?
Well, the magic is all in the connection. Modern systems like these use what's called an API-first approach. Just forget about those clunky overnight data dumps from the past. This is about creating a live, real-time data bridge. So when a part gets used on the assembly line, the inventory count in the online dealer portal updates that very second. That is the goal. One single, reliable source of truth for the entire business.
Let's break down how that data actually flows. It happens in 5 key steps. First, all your product data syncs from the factory brain out to the digital store. Next, customer data, including special contract pricing, gets mirrored online. Third, and this is a big one, real-time inventory levels are constantly updated, which solves that whole phantom stock issue. Fourth, an online order automatically becomes a production job. And finally, shipping info flows right back to the customer's portal. It creates this perfect closed loop of information.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory, right? But what about the results? Let's look at the real-world, quantifiable impact of actually making this connection happen.
To make this tangible, let's look at the case of Tassi Measurement. They're a global company that standardized on Epicor Kinetic to bring all of their complex operations together under one roof.
The results were, honestly, they were staggering. They achieved a 90.9% reduction in their invoicing cycle. Think about that. A process that used to take 22 days of manual work now takes just 2. That is a massive, massive impact on cash flow. And it didn't stop there. They also saw a 40% reduction in the inventory they had to keep on hand.
And why is that? Because when you have perfect, real-time visibility into what you have and what you're making, you don't need to tie up all that capital in huge amounts of just-in-case safety stock.
And look, this isn't just a one-off success story. A 2024 total economic impact study from the research firm Forrester actually analyzed the benefits across multiple organizations that were using Epicor Kinetic.
What they found was an incredible 270% return on investment over 3 years, with the entire system paying for itself in less than 2 years. I mean, for any business leader, this is exactly the kind of hard data that makes a major technology investment a no-brainer.
So you're probably wondering, where does that incredible ROI actually come from? Well, the Forrester study broke it down. As you can see, the value is spread across things like reducing manual tasks and just getting better data. In fact, the report found a 50% reduction in manual tasks and a 40% improvement in data analysis. So the value comes from deep operational improvements across the board.
All right, for our last section, let's zoom out, because this isn't really about a single one-time project. It's about laying a foundation for the future of your entire operation.
And this leads to a really powerful concept called the composable enterprise. The idea is simple, but transformational. Instead of being locked into one giant, inflexible system, you have a solid core, like Kinetic and OroCommerce, that can easily connect to other best-in-class tools using modern APIs. This lets you completely avoid those brittle, expensive custom jobs of the past.
The benefits of doing it this way, well, they're huge. You drastically reduce your technical debt, which makes your systems way easier and cheaper to maintain. You can innovate so much faster by just plugging in new capabilities without a massive overhaul. And you improve security by relying on modern, managed platforms.
And here's where it gets really exciting. This entire digital foundation can be supercharged by AI. That cognitive ERP label we saw earlier, it's not just a buzzword. It means using AI for things like smarter demand forecasting, or using sensors on the factory floor for predictive maintenance, flagging a machine for service before it breaks down and grinds production to a halt. So this all brings us to one final crucial question. Connecting your shop floor to your digital storefront isn't just about making things more efficient today. It's about building an agile, intelligent foundation for tomorrow. You really have to ask yourself, is your technology just running your business, or is it actually building your future?